Hi, this is Jazz Zobrecht, and welcome to my Talking Guitar podcast with Malcolm Young. One of the world's best-selling bands, AC/DC, was formed in 1973 by a pair of Scottish brothers who had moved to Australia, Malcolm and Angus Young. During the 1960s, their older brother George was a member of the Easy Beats, which scored a worldwide hit with Friday on My Mind. As part of the Vanda and Young production team, George would go on to produce some of the early AC/DC albums. Between the younger Young brothers, Angus was clearly the showman. Dressed in his trademark schoolboy uniform, he was action incarnate on stage. During concerts, he'd bounce around like a human pinball, whipping his head up and down and firing off solos punctuated by one of the best finger vibratos in all of rock and roll. While all this was going on, standing stage right was his older brother Malcolm. Peering through his dark bangs, Malcolm was like a calm in the eye of the hurricane as he strummed rhythm on a cranked-up vintage white Gretsch. Malcolm chose to remain in the background throughout his time in AC/DC, but as the chief chordsmith and co-songwriter, he helped set the band's musical direction, and his opinions in the studio meant a great deal to Angus. My interviews with Angus and Malcolm took place on the same day in a San Francisco hotel room during their 1983 Flick of the Switch tour. Speaking with Angus first, I was surprised to learn that he considered Malcolm the superior guitarist. Angus went on to say, and I'm quoting him here, "I'm just like a color over the top. He's a solid thing. His right hand is always going. In that field, I don't know anyone can do what he does. He's very clean. He's very hard. It's an attack. He's got his own style and his own sounds." True words. My interviews with the Young brothers took place on October 22nd, 1983. Here's the one with Malcolm.
I was surprised to learn from Angus that he considers you a much better guitar player than he is.
He's only flattering. No, I don't think so at all. I'm a rhythm guitarist, you know.
He said that as far as solo playing, he was much better as well.
No,
that you were much better at it.
No, I don't think so. No, nowhere near.
Yeah.
There's no comparison. I couldn't do what he's doing. You know, I haven't got that.
I asked him that, and he said that he could play. He thought he could sort of thrash at your kind of rhythms, but that you could play better solos than he could.
No, no, he's just. I don't think Angus likes for people to say he's a good guitarist. You know.
Yeah.
He's just saying that, but nobody comes near him. You know.
Yeah.
I mean, you ask the kids; they'll tell you he's the best guitarist. You know.
You know, AC/DC stuck to its style of music, where a lot of bands will jump on a bandwagon. They'll go from new wave to heavy metal to something else. Has that been a conscious decision?
No, it's just that we don't really like any of it. You know, we like what we do. That's the basic rock and roll side of it, you know.
Yeah.
If it doesn't swing, it don't mean a thing, you know. And there's really, that's about it. If we can't get our teeth into it, we don't play it, you know. And we've never really been told to go in different directions, you know. We've always had a steady sort of following the built upon built, you know. And I'm sure the kids wouldn't want us to change either, you know.
Are you playing your favorite kind of music?
Yeah. It's the only stuff that there's music that you can play or in the bedroom.
Yeah.
There might be something sweet or something, but that's as far as it goes. When you go on stage, you've got to play hard, you know. It's something that's required that the kids want. And that's for that excitement of playing and getting a good reaction from it. That's what sort of keeps us on the straight sort of rock and roll thing that we do, you know.
What are the important things to keep in mind playing rhythm guitar?
Well, I think you just got to keep it nice and solid, you know. Keep it in, you know. Got to remember in the back of it all, but you know, it's got to be as solid as possible, you know, and don't let up, you know. You've got to just go for broke, really. You know? Yeah.
How do you and Angus approach writing the songs, the music?
Well, it's either one or the other. We have a couple of ideas, you know. We'll just put them down as our own demos, you know. Just different sort of riffs and things. What else, you know, comes with it. And when we get together, we just sort of play what I've got, play what Angus has got. You know, I'll say what I think I like of Angus, vice versa. Then we'll both start working on it then, you know, we'll both get into it and, you know, put it together as a song, you know.
Is there a difference in your rhythm styles?
I don't think so, you know, because it's so straightforward, you know. It is, it's just right down the middle of the line. There's no, and it's not, I don't think it's hard to play it, really. It's just, probably just something with attitude, you know, that you, but I think that the rhythm styles are pretty close, actually, because of the, you know, that we both more or less sit on the riffs all the time. It's like a lot of guitarists who say, okay, that's your part. Now, what am I going to play for my part? You know?
Yeah.
We don't work like that, you know. We just play it straight. You know?
Do you think the fact that you're brothers has had an influence on?
Well, it's got to have an influence, really. Even if, you know, we don't admit it, there's got to be some, you know, just because you are brothers, you live and breathe the same air for most of your life, there's got to be something in there, you know. It's got to be part of it, you know.
Is it to an advantage to have your brother in the same band? Or?
I think so. Yeah, it's got to be, you know, because you're much tighter. You work much tighter. You know each other. You know, it's like from day one. It's not like meeting a new guy. You find a guy that you want to play with, and then you find out after a year the guy's a bit of a pig or whatever. You know? But at least we knew each other from day one. As soon as we started the band,
yeah.
You know? We knew each other's tempers and what to, you know. But at the same time, we sort of try and deal with it more on a professional scale. You know, rather we don't sort of really play up the fact of brothers and in this, but we try, you know, as a band, you know, we think as much as all the other guys in there, you know, everybody gets their own share of, you know, credit where it's due, you know.
Do you teach each other things on guitar?
No, we stopped learning when we were about 10. I mean, we've never got into it. Everything Angus plays is sort of natural. I don't think he'll play around what his solos are, but you know, it's all just dead natural with him, you know. It's just like reading and writing to us, you know. We don't really, you know, once you learn how to read, you don't go out and continue for the rest of your life to keep learning new words, you know. It comes natural, you know. And that's how we are, you know. We take that on the music side. I don't think it's ignorance to the music either. If we weren't copping it on stage, then, you know, we might have to go practice, but really we don't, you know. We've never had to from day one. You know?
Do you play solos on any records?
No.
Have you guys ever considered like doing solo exchanges and stuff like that?
I think when we first started, we used to do a few. You know, I used to do a couple of solos, you know, but we found it again with at that time the mixing situation with a band. You know, it was more complicated to get Angus into a rhythm seat for me to do a solo and vice versa, and it was coming a little bit confusing, and we just couldn't do it naturally, you know, not as to get off on it naturally as easy as me just sitting with the rhythm and Angus to go through it. It was just a lot more, it was a lot nicer that way, you know.
Yeah. Are you proficient in styles that aren't on any of the albums? Do you play any kind of guitar that you've never used with AC/DC?
No, I just play a bit of, I like playing the old rhythm and blues type things, you know, and a bit of blues. But again, you know, that's actually in AC/DC. There's roots of that in there. But,
a lot of blues.
Yeah, but yeah, I like the old stuff, and that's just for fun, you know. I just like playing that. I mean, it's too outdated, you know, these days, you know. But that's what I like, you know.
Really?
Yeah. Again, that's feel. That's just a feel. It's a natural thing. You know?
If you were to suddenly lose your audience, or for some reason the band wasn't going to be around, would you try to play another style of music?
I don't think so. No, I'm just happy with what we've done. You know, I'd do it if I did it. I'd probably do a little trad jazz thing or something with a little pub band in the middle of nowhere. You know, something. Not say trad, but maybe. But I wouldn't do it as a professional or for a living. You know, I'd do it just for fun. You know?
Huh.
I mean, you can. That's what I'm saying. Like saying before, there's some music is you can play it in the bedroom and have a ball with it, but that's as far as it should go.
Yeah.
Not to be taken seriously. Otherwise, you know.
What are your favorite rhythms that you've written, or favorite songs?
Really, I so many of them. You know, really, there's quite a lot. You know, I think the Let There Be Rock's got to be one of the best. You know,
that's what Angus said too.
Yeah, and Rosie's another. You know, and they're really simple tunes. You know.
Yeah.
But really. They're the ones that stick around. They're the ones that will be here for a long time. You know?
Do you ever have rhythm ideas come to you at strange times, like when you don't have a guitar, or do you mostly...
Yeah, of course. You can get, you know, hum into a little tape recorder if you want, you know, or write down the chords, you know, similar to... Because we don't read and write, obviously, in music, but, you know, you sort of develop your own little system, a little piece of paper with a few chords on it, same feel as this song, you know, blah, blah, blah. And that sort of keeps, you know, keeps the sort of... the idea of it, roughly, you know, until you get your guitar and you just whack it down on the tape, you know.
Will you work out a whole song before you show anyone?
No, because you could spend a lot of time working it out for nothing, you know, because I don't like it, like shit, you know.
Wow. Who started playing first?
I started before Angus.
And you're the youngest brother?
No, I'm the oldest out of the two.
Well, how old are each of you?
I'm 20, oh shit, I'm not, I'm 30 now, and Angus is 25.
Really?
Yeah.
So how much longer were you playing before he was?
Just a few years. You know, it's one of these things, it's a big family of four brothers, and there's a guitar, and they used to go camping the weekends with their mates, the hobos, I think they were called.
We used to do that too.
Yeah, and they took a guitar with them, and it was always one of the youngs that took a guitar, and it always ended up back at our place. And as you were just growing up as kids, all your brothers, older brothers were playing, and just a couple of chords, you know, and we just picked it up from them.
How many brothers were there?
There's 6 brothers altogether, you know, 7 brothers altogether, you know, 6 including myself.
How many played? Wasn't one of your brothers in the Easy Beats?
That's right, George.
Boy, they were a big band when I was a kid.
Yeah.
Friday on My Mind.
Yeah, that was there.
Great song.
He was a big influence on us, me and Angus, you know, because of his thing, you know, we were like little kids and he was around, you know, like the new Beatles at the time.
Wasn't that one of the biggest bands in Australia, if not the?
Yeah, at the time.
Yeah, that was the only one I'd ever heard of.
Yeah, well, they seem to have a lot going for them.
Oh, they were ahead of their time.
Yeah. That was a shame, though. They were a rock and roll band as well at the start. But then the music industry changed, you know, it all became psychedelic and acid and things like that came into the picture. And they got caught up in it for the first few months, and then they realised that they should have stayed rock and roll.
Were your parents nervous when you and Angus decided to get a band together?
Yeah, I'm sure they were.
They weren't very supportive?
Not unless you pay the rent, you know.
Did they ever go to your shows?
I think they've been to 1 or 2, but not really. You know, they watch it on the TV or whatever.
Are they happy with it now? Now that you've
they're proud old parents. I mean, it's the same like everybody in the band.
Yeah.
You know, they're all. I'm sure it's like anybody, unless their parents are really shitheads or something. You know? They're good, you know.
Was it ever a toss-up for you between a straight career in music, or did you pretty much know all along what you wanted to do?
Yeah, more or less, it was always music. You know, it always, you know, even when we were doing our day jobs and things, you know, you'd always want to get into music, and it was just finding the right combination to get get a good band together. You know. It's just a bit of timing, but I think we're all sort of more or less, you know, we always wanted to play, you know.
Huh. Have either of you done recordings outside of AC/DC?
Not really, no. Just an occasional session, you know, for my brother George, who had a few different things going because he's producing. And occasionally he'd call up and say, can you come down with your guitar and stick a rhythm on here or whatever. But I mean, nothing, you know, as another group or as anything like that. It's always been AC/DC.
Are you happy with your sound on records?
Yeah.
Well, how do you record your parts?
Oh, we just record, you know, straight out, just like a live situation, you know.
So you have all the backing tracks are done at the same time?
Yeah, we get all the backing tracks done first, and then, you know.
Will you like play the same rhythm part 2 or 3 times to make it thicker?
No, I don't. I don't believe in that, you know, because I just like the one rhythm. You've got more character from one. Even if you've got a little buzz in your guitar, I find it, you know, I'm not so much worried about the technical sound. It's the character I look for, you know. It's got that something different about it. Even if it's a string bust halfway through, if it sounds good at that time, leave it in, you know.
What kind of guitar do you play then? The Gretsch?
A Gretsch. I think it's called a Firebird. Some people call them rock jets or something. But I know there was a model later, a rock jet with different pickups, and totally different sound.
The 3 switches on the top are what throws us off.
I've got them. They're not switches now. I've just got buttons in. There's a couple of holes there where they were switches.
Oh.
And they're just studs. They're just.
Oh, well,
they're just sitting there.
We were looking at a photo and looking at the Gretsch catalog, trying to figure out what the hell it was.
No, that guitar's been smashed up so many times, you know. It's fallen to bits.
Is that the guitar you've used through most of AC/DC?
From day one.
Really?
Yeah.
Oh, how'd you get it?
I got it from the guy who was in the Easy Beats, Harry Vander.
Oh, yeah.
And at the time, he'd played it, and it wasn't. He's an old Gibson fan, Harry, and he just got this really early day Les Paul Gibson from a kid that didn't know what it was for so cheap. And he came in one night and he just handed me his Gretsch, you know.
Really?
So I was over the moon at that time. The only kid in town with a Gretsch.
Really? That's a nice looking guitar too.
Yeah, and it's been a great guitar since the day one we took it into the studio. You know.
It's not your standard. Well, it's a rockabilly guitar, but it's not your standard rock guitar now.
No, but it's good because because you can tell the difference between my guitar and Angus's.
Yeah.
It's separation, you know.
Did you have trouble with it feeding back?
No, not at all. You know?
Have you had to modify it?
I've had little modifications around the bridge of it, and, you know, things like that. You know, and when the neck's falling off, but not really. There's no trick in it. I think it's the pickup and the wood.
Is this the old pickup?
Yeah, it's the old pickup, original pickup, and it's got a hollow inside, just a hollow hole cut in it.
And the back's cut away?
No, the back's not cut away. It's like the top, the far end of your guitar here, there's a round hole cut in it under the wood, which the wood goes over.
Oh, so it's a semi-hollow body.
Yeah, sort of semi-hollow.
Do you put anything in there?
No, I put stuff in it at one stage, you know. They said that would stop feedback. But they didn't, took the roundness out of it, you know. Yeah. It's got a little bit of a round sound on it. You know?
Do you use a wireless transmitter?
I do now.
The Schaefer?
No, I've got the Sony.
Sony?
Yeah.
I didn't even know they have this.
Yeah, well, they're great. They really are. They just, you know, they've got, they can just sound as good as with a lead, you know. If not better sometimes. You know?
Do you have any effects devices?
No effects.
What's your amp setup?
Just Marshalls. I think I've got a 200 watt Marshall, which was modified for me, you know, with all the distortion and the boost that's taken out of it, so it just works again as a natural volume until I get the sound I want. You know?
Do you work your controls much on your guitar while you play?
No, I've only got one knob on my guitar, one volume, and that's it.
That's all that works?
Yeah, that's all I need, you know.
How many pickups does it have?
Just one pickup.
That's could get much simpler.
That's right. I feel I got about 5 knobs on my amp.
Yeah.
I've got like volume, bass, treble, middle, presence, and one volume on the guitar. Makes life easier.
Yeah.
You know? Really, you know?
Why do you stand back by the drummer so much?
To hear him. No, I try and keep it tight. You know, if you roll in there, it's find it a lot better than walking around the stage trying to play. You know, you'd rather get in there and play with the drums, you know, and keep it as tight as possible. It's a bit similar to a bass player situation with him. You know, bass and drums work close together.
Will you change parts on stage just off the top of your head? Will you play something differently than you did before?
Yeah, in the songs, there's some songs that we can do that, you know, that we allow a little bit of wallowing, you know, to go on.
Which are those?
Like Bad Boy Boogie, play around with that a bit. You know?
Do you ever get the urge to cut loose with something off the wall?
Yeah. Yeah, I think we all do.
Yeah.
Yeah. But you're within your restrictions as well. I mean, you can't bust into something and have 3 guitars over your head, you know, in this band.
Do you do much practicing?
None at all. I play for pleasure. That's, you know, but I don't have to practice. We play our songs that many times, we don't have to practice.
You don't work them out?
No, I mean, we've got, you know, they're pretty standard tunes, you know.
Do you ever play new songs before an audience, before they're recorded?
Oh, we've done that in the early days, but we found that it takes at least one listening to a new song before kids even get familiar with it, you know. And it's not, the kids are sort of listening rather than getting into it, we found, you know, so we don't really do that. You know?
Would you say you're self-critical of your playing?
No, not really. I don't think so.
Do you find your role limiting?
Not really, again, no. I think there's plenty that you can do with the rhythm guitar. I think it's only in the last few years now you start hearing rhythm guitars are coming. You know, well, I say 3 or 4 years, but before then it was keyboard guitar. You know, it seemed to be the thing. You know,
keyboard guitar.
Well, you know, the old rock type bands. You know, they were like Deep Purple, you get big organ solos, and then the lead. No rhythm guitarist, but now you find a lot more people getting more rhythm in there, right? And of course they've taken it to the other extreme. You know, see 3 guitarists up there all playing lead.
Oh, that's horrible.
Yeah, well, you never get a good sound at any gig with that going on. You know?
Does it ever bother you that Angus is the most recognizable member of the band?
No, because we all get the same money. So if he was getting more money, then it would bother us.
Was either of you shyer off stage?
I don't think so.
Because a lot of times a real sort of exocentric guy on stage, the guy who's a wild man, like Hendrix, off stage would be real reserved. He's like the complete opposite guy.
Yeah.
Now, Van Halen's like that. Off stage, it's real quiet. He doesn't like to talk to people. But on stage, it's all over the place.
Yeah. I don't think any of us is pretty natural on and off, isn't it? You know, try and be.
Are there other players you admire?
Not many. Not many.
No.
But the older guys, you know, the old style. That's what I admire, I think.
Older guys?
Like the old blues players and people like that. The old jazz players and the old
40s guys?
Yeah, Louis Armstrongs and
High Five.
all of that stuff, you know.
Do you use picks all the time, or do you ever play with your fingers?
I play with my fingers for myself again, for my own sort of thing. But on stage, it just knocks the shit out of your fingers, just trying to. You've got to have a plectrum, you know.
Have you ever hurt your ears through the volume?
Not really. You go
What?
10 past 3. Is it? No, it's what Brian says.
I'm just going to leave again, but you've got another maybe 10 minutes.
Okay, that should be
Okay.
fine. Yeah.
So I'll be back.
What kind of picks do you use?
I think we've got D Marquis at the moment.
Heavies?
Yeah, heavy.
How do you hold them?
No,
Between your
thumb and
forefinger?
yeah, like between these 2 fingers and the thumb.
Oh, so you use 3 fingers.
Well, it's really 2, but this one's a backup, I think.
Backup. Yeah. Do you have a method of warming up the band before you go on stage?
Just a joke from Brian. Warms us all up. Yeah.
You don't do any playing?
Oh, we have a little tune up for about 10 minutes, and, we might have a little blow or something,
Do you have a backup guitar?
Yeah, I've got a couple that have been made for me by JD Guitar.
He's the guy who used to work with Martin Birch
I think he might have, yeah.
in Birmingham.
Yeah. And he's just copied the first guitar I was telling you about.
The Gretsch?
Yeah.
Do you have other guitars?
I've got some other of the Gretches as well, but I found them not as good as my first one. The same model, same pickup, same body, but there's just a difference in the wood. So I got this JD to try and get a similar wood thing going for it.
Do you know what you're doing in musical terms? Like the names of all the chords you play and different inversions for them?
Not really, no. We could just say, give us an accent here and stop here and a couple of bars, it's about it. Very, we just work out by ear.
Uh-huh. Do you think, remember your live album? Do you think that was representative of your sound at the time?
Oh, yeah.
Were you happy with that?
Yeah. Really.
What about the movie?
The movie, I thought the music was great in there, Now, musically, I thought the band was really shit hot, because it was an afternoon gig in Paris, and it's always strange playing.
I was in Paris. Huh?
Yeah. And it's strange playing in the afternoon. It's just not right, But it actually came out really good. The sound-wise, it was excellent, I think,
How important do you think videos become in the marketing of a band?
It is important to a lot of bands for new acts and things. It's a whole new thing,
Are most of your videos live stuff? That's the only ones I've seen.
Yeah, that's what we start. We've got our style, and we'll keep going that way because it's rock and roll. You can, I suppose, you can put rock and roll into a big multi-million-dollar video if you like, and it would probably sell you 2 more million albums, but
wouldn't make your money back.
But you're only as good as your next video, then.
Yeah, it's a rut, I suppose.
We want to be around for another 10 years at least, playing, and the rock and roll audience is always there, and if you start if they think you're going Hollywood, you're going to lose them,
Yeah, that's for sure.
You're going to just.
Have you noticed much of a change in your audience?
No, I've noticed most of them are the same. I freaked out the other night in LA when I saw the audience go, Christ, what's this? It was like an opera audience, Wow. But apparently there's like season tickets at the Forum. And people go to every show. It's about 300. But the next night, it was all the hard rockers again,
What size venue do you prefer to play?
I like about 10,000 seater venues.
Yeah.
The band's got really comfortable playing those size venues now. The early days when we did clubs and everything, anything outside of that we didn't like. But you sort of get adjusted to it over the years, with your monitors, your setup, you get a good stage setup. And about 10,000 is good. I think mainly more for the audience point of view. Most of them can see a lot better and hear it a lot better. Then once you get over that,
The stadiums?
Yeah, you've got to really depend on those sound guys to do the job for you,
Do you do anything special to keep your health and sanity while you're on the road?
Well, we don't do much on drugs, which is good, And I think that keeps your sanity. It's once you start taking a lot of drugs, then you start slipping,
That seems like something bands do in the beginning, more than
Yeah, I've seen.
They've been at it 4 or 5 years.
Yeah, I've seen bands, you know, who, if they haven't got their little white powder, I mean, they're like robots on stage, and you know, and then when they've got it, they're a different act, you know, and that affects. That's, you know, if they get to a town like they come in San Francisco and they can't get any coke, the kids are going to get a right bad show out of it, you know. I think that's bad, you know. But you know, we'd have a few drinks and things, you know. Again, try and watch out, you know.
Is there any advice you'd offer to a young guy who's taking up guitar? Because it seems like a lot of people just want to learn solos. They're really enamored by the solo, thinking that that's the way to go.
It really depends on what they're into. If they like the solos, go for it. Because I wouldn't like to say to a kid, don't forget about the rhythm, because this kid might be the best solo guitarist to ever come out of the world, you know? Yeah, I wouldn't like this to say. I just say, all I could advise is, all I would say really is, if you've really got to give it all you've got, you've really got to get stuck into it in the early days, you know? Play the music you want to play, that you enjoy playing, and then take it from there, you know? Things start becoming that, like second nature then. That's it. You've just got to learn an instrument like you're learning how to speak. It's got to be natural. You've got to start to think about playing, and then the feel goes then, you know. You've got to just play it until you get so used to it. You know?
Do you and your brother Angus play any other instruments besides guitar?
Oh, not really, no. I just kick around a bass drum every now and then, you know. But I wouldn't class myself as a drummer.
You don't play bass?
No, I don't play bass very well. I find that the strings are too thick. My hands are too small, you know.
Is there anything you want to accomplish in the future?
Well, I think we'd hope to make a couple more classic albums, you know. That's what, you know, we'd like every album to be classic.
You've sure had your share lately.
Yeah, we really have. You know. We hope that all continues, you know.
That must be gratifying, especially when looking at the way the press have treated you for years.
Yeah, it's been like that from day one. But again, you know, if you start believing the press, you know, forget it, you know.
I know.
If they say you're the best rock and roll band in the world, you run around believing it.
You're doomed.
Yeah, I mean, I really think that's, you know, it's nice, it's a compliment, that's as far as it goes. But if they say you're the worst, that goes the same way. That's only what one person's opinion, you know. And we know what we like, and that's what we want to achieve, you know. If we didn't like what we were playing then, you know, things wouldn't be happening anymore, you know. I think that's important. You know?
Is there anything else you want to cover? Questions you always wanted someone to ask you?
Nah, not really. I really don't like talking too much about anything.
Really? Well, this is great. I sure appreciate getting an interview with you.
That's no sweat, John.
One last question. If you had to do it all over again, would you have learned any differently?
Oh, no, I hope not. You know?
You would have gone through the same way?
Yeah.
The same way of playing?
Yeah, you've just like got a trial and error situation. I mean, sure, you just fall into the right spot and you sort of feel the most comfortable with that type of thing, and you just carry on from there.
Are there times you felt you peaked or the band has peaked?
Not really, you know. It depends how you look at it. Again, if you're looking at it on the press side, or if, you know, if you're going across the boards, you know, if there's all of a sudden mums and dads coming to the audience, or if that's what you call peaking, you know, not really. I think as long as you can come up with new ideas all the time, then you haven't peaked, you know. You're still going for it, you know. That's all quite a natural step, you know.
Well, thanks, Malcolm.
I like the Beatles when they come out, you know. It's just that young thing there with long hair with them.
Oh, that was exciting,
And
wasn't
then
it?
the Stones, you know, they were brilliant in the Who. You know. But again, I'm talking back then, you know, 60s, 66, 67,
Right.
68. And then the Yardbirds were another one of my favourites. You know. Then we got into the Clapton thing with them, John Mayall Blues Breakers, and Paul Butterfield Blues Band. You know.
Oh.
It was just little things like that. Used to like. You know.
Huh, I didn't even know they got you. Now you were in Australia then.
Yeah.
You were born in Scotland.
Yeah, but my brother used to send us over a few albums. George used to say, "Yeah, I'll get your teeth into this." You know.
Oh.
He was a good help to us.
Where was he?
He was in England at the time of the Easy Beats. And he just, like, I'd call up and say, "Hey, George," I used to go out and say, buy Led Zeppelin. First time I heard their Good Times, Bad Times on the radio in Sydney. And I went down to a record shop for like 2 weeks. Got a single called, Good Times, Bad Times by Led Zeppelin. People were just he's a crackpot, So I used to ask him, I said, pick me up anything that's, you think's good at the moment. Oh, can you get me this album and that? And he used to send me over a parcel of albums.
Is he still involved with rock?
Yeah, he's quite a major part of, production team,
I saw a story in Billboard a year or two ago about Vanda Young.
Yeah, they're still doing a flash in the pan type thing, which is just a throw off for them,
Yeah.
And when they get the time, they just say, well, what we do, they go into the studio. But otherwise, they're producing other acts, and still writing a lot of songs.
You think you could ever be a producer?
I don't think so. Not myself. We can do it with the band. But you've got the bounce off of everyone else, and that works well. But couldn't do it. I think it's too much brain strain involved in it, And it's also the way that you sort of put yourself across to people is very important. I notice you've got to come on very, you've got to be well spoken in a way and confident. And I haven't really got that. People can take me the wrong way, just by the way I phrase myself.
Are you and Angus the youngest two?
Yeah. The last two.
So you're the last two.
Yeah. But all the other brothers, they sing the old Lonnie Donegan tunes.
Oh, yeah.
Now a lot of them play old country and western things,
Are they happy with your success?
Oh, yeah, they love it, They come up to us and say, fucking rock and roll, mate. It is rock and roll you're playing. And when it comes from brothers like 40, 42 years of age, that's great, Ask them what kind of it's funny you get all these people asking us, what is it? Is it hard rock or is it heavy metal you play, Hard rock and heavy metal has always been about the same to me,
Edited versions of my interviews with Angus and Malcolm were published as Guitar Player Magazine's February 1984 cover story. Malcolm continued to play with AC/DC until 2014. He withdrew from the band due to ill health, a bout with lung cancer, heart problems, and early onset dementia. He passed away in 2017. In all, Malcolm had spent 41 years playing in AC/DC. Before signing off, I want to thank my podcast producer, Nick Hunt, the staff of the Southern Folklife Collection, and you, my paid subscribers, for your much appreciated support. Thank you.